Hey, what's going on, guys? Battle Nation's Emperor here, back today with another video. And today, guys, we have a good one. We have another recommendation video, and all the video recommendations recently have been really good. And this one here, I think, is the peak of the peak because it is, I think, a great video idea. So I just want to shout out the person who gave it, and that is Panzer Brick Labs. They are a YouTube Lego military YouTuber. They have a few shorts and videos on their channel. It looks like one of each. And yeah, they make good content. I at least like Lego and Panzers, and that's, of course, what they specialize in. So I think it's a pretty cool channel. You guys can go check it out if you want. But they left an amazing comment in the comments right here, and I just had to share it. And it was this right here. And what it's basically asking is, can we get a comparison of real life to Battle Nation? So, of course, a lot of the vehicles and a lot of the aircraft in Battle Nations is based off their real life counterparts. Of course, the one they recommended right here, which will be the first one, it'll be the example as they gave it. It's a pretty good one. The Mark V being the equivalent of a medium tank. So here's, of course, the two right here side by side. And the Mark V was a British tank primarily used in the First World War. And, you know, while particularly not a good tank, you have to remember this is the First World War. Tanks would really get a boost, a massive buff in World War II. But for the time being, they were basically just moving metal. And at that point, that was pretty good. So this is a very famous tank. It's very clearly the inspiration for the medium tank. I mean, just looking at them side by side, you can tell. So, of course, medium tank is a pretty freaking good tank. It carries you all the way through, I would say, the transition from early game, you know, going into intermediate to late game. So absolutely love that tank. But very clearly the base example, and this was a very good example to give because I would say it's the most obvious on the list. But we do have a few more like that. So before we jump into today's list, I just want to say again, thank you guys for the overwhelming support. The absolute past videos have just been amazing. They've been blowing up. They've been doing well. Whole bunch of likes, whole bunch of comments, and a whole bunch of great video recommendations. So if you have your own video recommendation, whether it's a theory, a Battle Nations fact, curious about something in Battle Nations, anything Battle Nations related, please comment it down below. I'd love to get a conversation started down there. And if we pick your video, by all means, I'll shout out your YouTube. If you don't want that, just let me know in the comment, or let me know, you know, other social media you'd like shouted out, whichever you prefer. And with all that being said, let's jump right into the rest of the list. Starting off with, in my opinion, pretty cool entry. I didn't even know this myself. The Super Tank in Battle Nations. This, of course, beautiful bad boy right here. A very good tank, even though it is very pricey. Premium currency, of course, but no problem at all. And despite that, the Super is comparable to the Abrahams. And the second I learned this, I was like, that's another thing you can compare the Super to. Already a really good tank right under a mega tank. But to be compared to the American Might Abrams, that's just, I would say, you know, the Abrams is the best modern tank right now. I don't know if that's a controversial take. Maybe it is, but at least that's just me reading off its Wikipedia. And kind of got to agree with it just from what I've heard. Please don't kill me if it's wrong. I have no expertise in this field. But nevertheless, just wanted to point that out because you can definitely see the similarities. This is both of them right up here. And that is the American Abrams compared to the Super Tank. And unfortunately, I checked. The Mega Tank has no real world comparison. I was so distraught when I found that out because I was hoping, I was begging the Mega Tank had a real life inspiration. But nope, it's literally just a funny story. Here's the story in Battle Nations. Long story short, somebody got some numbers wrong, and instead of just admitting the mistake, they had to really commit to the act. And while that's a funny story and all, to me, it just would have been much better if they had just came out and said, it's based off a super weapon, or it's based off, well, yeah, let's be honest, the Mega Tank couldn't exist. I was going to try to make a justification for it. Probably not. It's so cool in theory, but I just don't think the technology is there yet. Maybe one day it will be, and if it ever comes to it, I hope we get some Mega Tanks, because that would be beautiful. But there is no Mega Tank comparison. Just wanted to point that out before moving on to the next one. And speaking of which, we're going straight to the skies. We're going with one of the most popular air units. And that, of course, is this beautiful Wild Boar right here. I love this guy. He is super cool. He was so cool, in fact, Z2 said, let's run him back again, and gave us this bad boy. A slightly weaker, not by a lot, but slightly weaker Boar. And it has, of course, a paint job. It does slightly less damage in its attacks. Again, just ever so slightly worse. It's still a very good aircraft, very good tier 10. I gotta be honest, I really like this kind of concept. Basically saying, okay, we're going to give you, the tier 10 you want again, but people who got it the first time will be able to distinguish. They'll have a slightly better aircraft, and you'll get to basically use their aircraft, but they'll have the OG, because at the end of the day, at least in my opinion, I think the Boar 10 looks better than the second version, only because I don't think the paint job looks bad. I think this paint job looks honestly pretty cool. My only problem with it is the fact that just clean. Just this, in my opinion, is beautiful. It's perfect. I prefer the original. Glad to have gone both, but still, my opinion, the original holds my heart. And with that being said, what is this bad boy based off of? Because yes, it is based off a real-life aircraft. It is based off of, and I couldn't believe this when I found out, but the more I read about it, I was like, okay, an A-10 Thunderbolt. Yes, this bad boy right here, used by the American military. Apparently, it is a very strong, multifaceted combat vehicle, and the fact that it is basically considered overwhelming air support and is still used to this day, even though it is unfortunately looking to be phased out, it is an amazing piece of aircraft. Has a whole long history, which you can read right up here. And I will link in the description all of the OG units in Battle Nations, their Wikipedias, and then of course all of the units. It might take me some time to write that out and get that description, but I will do it, so it should be ready if you're checking it. If not, apologize. But yeah, gonna link these bad boys because they do have a long history. I just don't want this to turn into a history video. Don't get me wrong, I love history, especially military history. However, the only thing is I don't want to bore anybody who isn't into military history with that. So that's the only thing here. I just want to do Battle Nations units, and that's where we're going to be focusing on today. But yeah, back to the cool aircraft. We're talking about the A-10, comparing it to the Wild Boar. Again, this thing is just a beast. Absolutely love this thing. Again, it is multifaceted, but its main focus is close to air support aircraft. That is what it's mainly used for, and still in use today. Absolutely amazing to see, but again, is being phased out. Had a whole long history. I mean, this thing is a whole lot longer than the Wikipedia of the Wild Boar, I tell you what. And yeah, so whole lot to read here. I mean, I'll count this in a word counter and then throw it up on screen right here. Yeah, it's a lot. So yeah, throwing that down there for anybody who wants to read it. If not, just throw this video in just to cover, the general atmosphere and what it was used for. This also was called the Warthog, which, yeah, I can definitely see it. It looks like actually, I'm almost positive this was used in a Call of Duty game. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this was just the Warthog score streak. I'll have to confirm that. I'll throw it up on screen if it's true. But yeah, absolutely love this guy. Beautiful aircraft. So glad we got the Wild Boar. And yeah, he is based off the Thunderbolt A-10. Beautiful. Moving right along, we have a Soviet vehicle. Not aircraft, but vehicle. And it is first off, let's cover the Battle Nations unit. The Battle Nations unit is the Hellstorm. Unlocked at level 21. It is a beautiful artillery vehicle. It becomes very useful. And while certainly outclassed by some aspects, of course, the biggest one against it being that it costs so much to repair. Besides that, the artillery does work very efficiently, and it's much better than some earlier attempts at artillery the game tries giving you. Not, of course, talking about my mortar team. I'm talking about certain other units that we could talk about if they need balance changes. That's another thing we've heard. I've gotten a lot of comments about it, and a lot of people have talked about. So not sure who I'd include. I just have to include a lot of people if we did it. But let me know if you guys want theoretical balance changes in Battle Nations. We could certainly talk that, because it's going to be a whole bunch of those, because man, was old Battle Nations just so all over the place. And once Madrona Games gets everything back in, and they're almost done with it. I mean, heck, we already got the full game out now. Once they're done, probably going to get hit with a major 1.0 nerf and buff. Man, think of all the units that are going to be affected. That could definitely be a video. Let me know if you guys are interested down below. But moving right along with this one, what is this beautiful Hellstorm based off of? That, of course, would be the Katyusha rocket launcher. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong, and I almost definitely did. But nevertheless, this was a rocket launcher truck from the Soviet Union. It was mainly used in World War II. It was mass-produced by the Soviet Union for its cheap and reliable efficiency. and is credited with being a crucial fact of Soviet artillery at the time, used all the way up to the 70s. Now, I love the design of this bad boy, and even love it more in Battle Nations because I think just the concept alone certainly deserved a unit, and I'm so glad we got it in Battle Nations. It's real life comparison, I'll be honest. I didn't even think this thing really had a real life comparison. I thought it was more just kind of fantasy, but no, very much a real thing. The Soviets produced it, and it looked to be very effective in battle. It certainly won them. It's credited to have won them the front on artillery in World War II, being able to push back the, I can't say their name, but you know, the subjects of the Austrian guy in World War II, that man. And yeah, it's counted to being their main artillery during that period, and all the way used through the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Cambodian War, and then finally be retired in the 70s. So before the Iran War, the Soviet-Iran War, which almost positive would have been after, and I'll throw it up on screen. And yeah, still absolutely love the look of this guy. Certainly surprised he was actually effective. He looks like he'd be something that civilians would craft themselves, but hey, if it worked, and it certainly worked for the Soviets. So mass-produced, very cool design, even better design in Battle Nations. Absolutely love this guy. Had to throw out his real-life comparison. Moving right along, we have another aircraft, and that, of course, would be the attack drone. This guy, very quickly, we can cover. He is based off a real-life Predator drone, which is, of course, mass-produced by the Americans, has several different varieties now. It is long since been retired. However, there are multiple versions of it still in use today all across the world. And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, it does look like a toy, even its trivia says that. However, the fact that this was, not only, a real design that, was, of course, made more cartoonish for Battle Nations, but in theory still works. And the fact that it was only retired in recent memory, a little bit ago, of course, but still has multiple variants still out today. And as we've seen, of course, unfortunately, in the Ukrainian war, drone warfare is seemingly the new frontier, and seemingly is what really is big, because why risk so much expensive equipment, so many aircraft, so many high buildings, vehicles, everything, when you could just make a fleet of small bombs, flying bombs, basically. And I think that's the concept. I really hope this video doesn't get age restricted, and we're going to be moving on from the Predator drone, aka the attack drone in Battle Nations. Just wanted to point this guy out because, again, he's used in a few ball strikes. I would love to see him back as a tier 3. And yeah, that's the attack drone, real life, the Predator drone. Continuing right along, we have, and I just had to throw this one in here because I thought it was simple, but I just wanted to throw the theory concept. The Ninja, based off the real life Ninja. Does this surprise anybody? No. And there's a whole lot we could talk about ninjas. I don't think I need to say that. That is a very open-ended book that we could start anywhere. But yes, ninjas were a real thing. They were real spies. They probably didn't dress in black, but they were espionage. They were very trained in stealth skills, and they were probably extremely cool in real life. So just wanted to throw out that comparison. If we do make a part 2 to this, because I think there's certainly a part 2, especially for more vehicles and more aircraft. But even in part 2, I think we could throw in some Navy, throw in some troopers, if you guys want to see it. If not, we could strictly stick to aircraft and vehicles since they're more interesting. But troopers we can try to do. It's just the problem is a lot of them are based off fantasies. Like, they're really cool, but they're based off, fantastical, magical items that don't exist in the real world. So, we kind of either have to draw what they're inspired by, or we just have to say it's, made up, and we can't, really go anything further than that, right? So just wanted to throw it out there. I can certainly find some units, I'm sure, that are actually based in reality, and we can certainly do those. But for the time being, just wanted to throw this one guy in here. There's a whole bunch to read about ninjas. If you're bored, I'd highly suggest checking out ninjas. It's a very cool study and read. Moving right along, we have another aircraft, another cool boy. And that, of course, is the Signal Jammer. Now, when this guy came out, man, did this guy look cool. He's awesome. He's beautiful. In my opinion, he is peak Battle Nations aircraft. Those first few ball strikes and those first few tier 10 aircraft, man, they were cooking, just absolutely dishing out Michelin star meals. It was insane. But unfortunately, they would of course, repeat a lot of them. But what really did it in, at least for me and a lot of other players, was the fact that they did, at the end, Ball Strike 20. And this one suffered the worst because Signal Jammer this beautiful Tier 10 Boss Strike from Boss Strike 6 was reduced not to a Tier 7, not to a Tier 3, to a Tier 1, bro. How do you get reduced from Tier 10 to Tier 1, man? I still can't go over that, man. I will be talking about this on my deathbed, man. How and why did Signal Jammer go from a Tier 10 Boss Strike unit in Boss Strike 6 all the way down to a Tier 1 in Boss Strike 20? Man, we just really went off the rails at the end there, but at least they gave everybody unlimited nanopods at the end, and they gave us one last ride before it all went down. But hey, we're back now. That's, of course, the Battle Nation story. There's a lot to look forward to. Just covering the history of these Battle Nations units, because just about all of them are probably going to come back. Even the limited edition guys like the Blood Ninjas. I didn't even talk about them, but basically they're regular ninjas but bloody, and a limited edition unit in Battle Nation. So super cool right there. So there's a lot to look forward to, and I'm extremely excited about that. I hope the Signal Jammer comes back and is treated with the dignity he deserves, and I believe Madrona Games will do that for us. So continuing right along, we only have a few left, but I am certainly down to look at them. One is the Heavy Tank, and he is based off a T28 Heavy model produced by the United States. And when I say produced, I mean barely produced. There were 2 ever made. Just 2, not 2,000, not 2 million, 2. 2 tests, one of the engines blew up, and as you can imagine, they just went, yeah, don't make any more of this. It looks so cool. I love the concept. Basically just, you know, a heavy tank, right? Very self-explanatory. But as real life does, it kind of ruins fantasy, and this one is no different. What the problem was is it was super expensive, super impractical, and we've just been a drain on resources. Not to mention the challenge of trying to get this bad boy in mass across the Atlantic from, you know, America's eastern coast all the way to, you know, Europe. Forget about it, man. There were much better options at the time, and that's what they were looking for. So completely understand that, even though this guy looks so freaking cool, man. Why can't he have been like a commander tank? Nevertheless, you had to take practicality into account no matter how cool this guy looks. I absolutely love that we got him forever immortalized in Battle Nations as the Heavy Tank, and even as the Gold Tank. So technically the Gold Tank 2 is based off the T28 Heavy model. Absolutely love you, guy. Really just wanted to share the story. And yeah, that is the story of the real life version of the Heavy Tank. And then we had 2. Pretty excited. Let's go into the last aircraft, and then we're going to go into the last vehicle. And the last aircraft is the BC-1 Snake. That is its Battle Nation's name. It is a very cool aircraft. It is, in fact, the first aircraft we get in Battle Nations. In fact, I'm sorry, not aircraft. I'm silly over here. Helicopter. I threw it up on screen. I don't know why I read that as aircraft. Completely my bad. It is the first helicopter we ever get in Battle Nations. It's very sleek and nice designed right here. We will get variants of it like this one right here. This was a completely different helicopter. However, it was also used in-game as a limited edition unit. Like I said, basically doing the Boar 10 thing. I love that concept. Please keep it up. If Madrona Games were to do that, I would be so over the moon happy. That would be awesome. And yeah, basically this is what the Cobra looked like. A beautiful design, and it is very reminiscent and very clearly inspired off the H-11 helicopter, more practically known as the Bell 47. That is what is linked on the Battle Nations wiki. This is a very classic helicopter. It was used for not even just war, but it is still used for commercial reasons. It has been faded out, and it has been faded out for a long while in the United States military. However, it is still used to this day. And when I meant faded out, I should have clarified. I apologize. Mass cleared out. So it's not as used as practically as it was apparently at its peak. It was during the Vietnam War and slightly after. However, it is still operational to this day, and not only the United States Army, but also the British Army as well. So that's pretty freaking cool. And yeah, its first flight was just at the end of World War II, or I'm sorry, at the end of 1945. And this thing is a beautiful beast. Here are some more pictures of it. Beautiful aircraft. So glad we got it in Battle Nations. I can't find any, well, that's a lie. I can definitely find multiple versions of this basically just in an attack helicopter. However, I can't find any that are directly based, or at least are willing to admit they're directly based off the 47. But since it was brought into war, I imagine most of these variants must have been what were actually brought into war. I can't imagine this particular aircraft right here was brought into Vietnam because, I mean, look at it. It has no armor. It has no guns. You can't fly this thing into a war zone. So I'm sure it has some more beefed up military versions, but this is the plain model. A beautiful, simple aircraft for a simple purpose. I mean, if it gets the job done, and it certainly looks like it gets the job done. My only critique of it is, doesn't it kind of look like a toy helicopter? Like, you know, the type of, you know, you would get, not a full-on drone, but just a toy helicopter you get as a child. It kind of looks like that to me, at least in my personal opinion. I'm sure it's a great aircraft. And yeah, that is the Bell 47 in real life. And that is what is based, or what is used to make the BC-1 Snake in Battle Nations. And finally, we have one more. And this wasn't a best for last type of thing. I think this is just as good as the others, but I was really excited about this guy. The Tank Killer. Yes, there's something that is loosely based in reality off the Tank Killer. I was so excited to hear that. It's not as cool as the Tank Killer, but man, I was so freaking hyped to see that. I first went to Mega Tanks, saw there was nothing, I was like, dang. But then I went here to Tank Killers, and I saw there was something, I was like, yes! And according to the wiki, and in my opinion, a pretty good guess, the Tank Killer unit is inspired by the M50 Otis. It is classified as a tank destroyer made by the United States, and it was only used for less than a decade, a few years between 1956 and 1996. But look at it. It is so beautiful. It has the body of a tank, the guns of the Tank Killer from Battle Nations. So just look at that comparison. You can definitely see it. I believe this wiki. And man, I wish we could have expanded this. I say we should have modern tanks like the Abrams, but with Tank Killer guns on them. Because, I mean, what if we run into the ancient construction? You never know. You need to be ready for these type of situations, you know? So that's my personal headcanon. That's what I would do if I was in office. And yeah, that will do it for today's video. I think this concept has great potential. So if you guys liked it, please let me know in the comments down below. We can certainly make more. Again, special shout out to Panzer Brick Labs. If you haven't, please consider checking out their YouTube channel. They make some good shorts and good videos. Absolutely love them myself. And yeah, if you yourself have a Battle Nations recommendation video, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to make your Battle Nations video a reality. If it gets a lot of updates, a lot of likes in the comments below, we can certainly do it. And just let me know in that comment if you'd be okay with the shout out, and if you'd want no shout out, or if you'd want a certain social media shouted out. Just let me know about that. We can certainly do that. And yeah, that will just about do it. If you are still here, still listening, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you very much for watching this Battle Nations real life comparison video all the way through. I greatly appreciate you. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider dropping a like down below and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And with all that being said, that will do it for us today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a great rest of your day.